Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Dorex number 2642 round pocket door lock privacy function. Not so much lock, but privacy function would be a better way to state that. So Dorex is a company that has a significant broad spectrum of residential hardware, commercial as well. And what we're looking at today is their sliding or pocket door lock that you'd see in a residential application. This is a privacy function that will allow you to operate it successfully on a door like a bathroom that would require privacy. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the pieces, I want to let you know that it's available in antique bronze, satin nickel, and satin nickel is the unit that we'll be reviewing in this video, antique nickel, polished chrome, satin chrome, and polished brass. So 6 finishes. You can do it in 2 different back sets, 2 3/8 and 2 3/4, and I actually have one of each latch bolt here so I can show you what that looks like. And let's get to the nuts and bolts of it. Now, there is a link below this video to the product brochure, which will show you the other associated items from Dorex, primarily the 2610 model, which would be a passage function. And then their rectangular type, that more traditional style. There's also a link to a document called Reference Guide, which is handy in the sense that it will show you the different finishes. I'd probably retitle that, and actually I'm going to retitle that Finish Guide, and by the time you see this video, it will be called Finish Guide. And then installation instruction is there for your review. The installation instructions are going to allow us to review the process by which to get everything installed onto the door. Page 1 is going to give you the steps to install a passage or a privacy function. This will be appropriate for the 2610 or the 2642 series, and that's all covered on page 1. Page 2 is the actual machining of the door. Let's start with page 1 in the sense of let's use it as a guide by which to do a visual overview of the parts. First of all, the business end of the lock, a latch bolt, 2 3/4 and 2 3/8. That's called the back set. The back set is important to know when you're doing a lock set to make sure that the hardware is compatible with the hole that is either already drilled in the door or the hole that you're going to drill in the door. The back set is the dimension from the edge of the door to the center of where a tailpiece or a cam or where you're going to drill the hole through the door. You can see that this is 2 3/4 and this one's 2 3/8, right to the center line of the crosshairs of where the tailpiece will go through. Primarily that means what is the hole that's drilled in the door? It's back set. What is the back set already drilled at, if there is one? It's important to understand that the back set is measured from the center of the thickness of the door, not from the inside edge or the outside edge. Because a door, and it wouldn't be in your installation, and if it is, you need to correct this, a door for a pocket would not be beveled at all. It would be square. So you can measure the edge of the door to the center of the hole, 2 3/8 or 2 3/4, from either side of the door. You'll certainly want to make sure that your door does not have a bevel. I've had people install hardware to find, oh my gosh, I've just installed a pocket door and it has a bevel on it and didn't realize it. So put a square on the edge of the door and make sure that your door is square. If it's not, plane it square and then start your installation. So edge of the door to the center of where you'll drill the hole is what the back set is going to be for this scenario. Now, looking at page 2 of the installation instructions, we're going to see, part overview. Privacy function is what we're reviewing here. This is the exterior. It has a coin turn. You can imagine putting a quarter in there and turning it. And turning that coin turn will allow you to move the tailpiece that's going to engage into the back of the latch bolt. Now that's really important to have there because you don't want anyone getting locked unintentionally inside. So when I turn that coin turn, I've got a little flat blade here, I can manipulate the lock, primarily unlock it. When I was a child, my great-grandmother got stuck in the bathroom. She was okay, but just couldn't work the lock for some reason. And luckily that door had an emergency release on it so that there was no need to pull the door down, push the door in, kick the door in, things of that nature. That's why you want to have a coin release on locks. Now, your installation is going to have the exterior portion, its tailpiece, the two tapped holes for your inside plate with its simple turn, and that turn allows you to affect the latch bolt, obviously. And as I turn that, I'll be able to lock and unlock the latch bolt, allowing you to work properly the door. So you've got your exterior, your interior plate. You obviously have your latch bolt, either 2 3/8 or 2 3/4. You'll have to order the unit specifically with the proper latch bolt that you want because it doesn't include both. Moving on with our visual tour, we discovered the inside and interior and exterior plates. Obviously, the latch bolt. The only way that this latch bolt apparently comes is with a radiused corner. That's a 1/4 radius, 2 1/4, 1 1/8. 2 1/4 by 1 inch with a 1/4 radius. That's what you're going to get. If you've got square corner, you're going to get radius corner on this. As far as I know, it's not made any other way. You're going to get a strike plate. It's kind of an odd strike plate. Not odd, it's specific to this lock. Overall height, 2 3/4. That's not unusual. The width, however, at 1 1/4 inches, that's unusual. Then the feature with the bent or returned over metal on the backside make it special. Luckily, it comes with a dust box because that's a fairly large hole that's there. And a dust box is simply to close off or clean off the backside installation of what you're doing. These are obviously optional, but they should be used if you can accommodate the jam preparation or the jam and then the stud behind preparation to account for this. By all means, do so. Then, of course, the screw package, very simple and straightforward. All you're really going to need are the 4 screws for here and here, 2 and 2. Then you're going to need 4 machine screws for installing this lock. Well, you only need 2 machine screws, but obviously they've got a short and a long, and there's 2 of each, 1 3/8, 1 3/4. Obviously, 1 3/8 will be more common for your application. That exhausts all the pieces that you'll end up getting. You should have only 2 screws left over when you're all done installing this, the machine screws. Now, page 1 we've looked at in the sense of accounting for all the pieces. The privacy set, the passage set, you're in good shape. Now, obviously in a passage set, you're not going to get a strike plate. Let's now talk about the operation of the latch bolt. The operation of the latch bolt is very simple, and here's how it works. You see that arrow? Absolutely, you want that pointed towards the top of the door. You don't have to, but then you've got to reverse all the installation instructions because the latch bolt pointed towards the top, you can tell where the tail pieces go through is not symmetrical in the end of the latch bolt. You would have to literally take all the pieces and turn them over to make it work. You could, but just there's no reason not to put this with the arrow up. When you want to extend that to act as the edge pull, the door is in the slid fully open position. Take your finger and just push it up, and it will pop out. A little up, little gravitas up. You can see what I'm doing. Watch my finger up. Then it pops out. Small little cutout there, and that's what allows it to lock down. So in and down, up and out allows that to work. And then you can get your finger in there and pull the door open. And that's the edge pull portion. Now, the way that the locking works on this latch bolt is when it throws, you see that hook that comes out there at the very end. And that is what is going to grab onto the back side of the latch bolt here. And that's what's going to keep it in a locked position. Until you, of course, throw it back, it retracts that hook at the top, everything slides into the position. That's how that works. Very simple and straightforward. Now, let's get into the installation instructions or the templating on page 2. You'll see immediately and at the top, and by the way, the instructions are included when you get the hardware. You're going to drill your hole for 1 3/8 or 1 3/4 door thickness. And the machining of this door is best if you follow the steps, and let's go through that. Steps 1 through 3, so bottom half of page 2, steps A, B, C, D, E, etc. Step A says follow steps 1 through 3 above. And what they're saying is take that template, step 1, fold it over, place all that on the edge of the door, and then mark your hole for 1 3/8 or 1 3/4 on the edge. Then on the face of the door, mark it 2 3/4 or 2 3/8 for your back set. Double check that. Just measure twice, cut once. Step B, forgive me, drill an 1/8 of an inch diameter pilot hole where you've marked through the door for your crossbore and then in the edge of the door as well. Step C, drill that 2 1/8 inch hole about halfway through the door, then come to the other side and finish it. When you mark that hole, I think you should mark it on both sides of the door so that your pilot of your hole saw, I like hole saws, I don't like multi-spur bits, that's a different conversation, so that you can start the drilling in the same place and go halfway through and meet in the middle. Drill the 2 1/8 inch hole halfway through, finish it from the other side. That's good. Step D now, so right now you've got a 2 1/8 inch hole through the door and nothing other than an 1/8 of an inch pilot bit through. Step D is mark location for strike plate in door jamb by closing the door and taking a 2-inch common nail, just a common nail, a typical 2-inch nail that you'll use in general construction, through that 2 1/8 inch hole and mark the jamb. And that step is what makes the prepping of this unique. You want to mark that center location because the alignment of the latch bolt needs to be correct. There's not a lot of tolerance for getting this right. I can't even get that to go in there because the machining tolerance is so well. But when I have the strike captive, I mean, I don't have a lot of play there. I've got to be spot on. Double check your measurements. You have maybe a 1/16 of an inch margin to play with. You don't want to get into filing anything on these strikes, or the latch, certainly. And step D is what makes this a unique installation. You've marked the hole, now you know where your strike center is going to be. Now, step E, drill that 1-inch hole into the edge of the door, through to your crossbore. They've got a multi-spur bit there, or an auger bit, it actually looks like. You know, a 1-inch fly bit. That's what I like. I like the type of fly bit. They're cheap, they're long-lasting, they're durable, they're cheap. Okay? I like the ones that have the wing cutter so that you immediately begin to score the perimeter of the hole before the blades start to evacuate material. I like to score that first because wood needs to be scored whenever you're going to cut it or drill into it. It needs to be scored. Otherwise, you run the risk of tearing and flaring the veneer out. Step F, mortise your latch bolt. There's showing a square prep there, 1 inch wide, 2 1/4 tall, radiused corners, 5/32 of an inch deep. Just heavy on an 1/8 of an inch. Use a router. A router is the way to go. If you have only one to do, well, hammer and chisel, I suppose. G, place the strike on the jamb, aligning the center lines with the center lines drawn. Mark the 4 center points. So you're going to have a center line where your common nail has marked. You're going to position that. You're going to come with your 1/2 of an inch drill bit. That would work out actually perfectly for your latch bolt prep. Drill the 4 corners with a 1/2 inch drill bit. Chisel the rest. Chisel it nice and you're done. Do the same here, although I can't tell you that that's a 1/4 inch radius, but I'm going to just assume that it is. Well, actually I can. It's the same radius as the latch bolt, and that is known to be 1/4 inch radius. 1/4 inch radius, drill your 4 holes, chisel out the rest, accommodate your dust box. Drill 1/2 inch diameter hole, 1 1/4 deep at each point as marked, 4 of those. Mortise the rest. Attach all of the hardware. That's step I. Oh, okay. Drill 3/32 of an inch diameter pilot holes 1 inch deep. Do that for both the strike, the screws for the strike, and the latch. Always pre-drill. Always, always. You don't want to risk splitting the frame. If you're doing a job for somebody and you split the jam because you didn't pre-drill, it's a major failure at that point. Just taking all the time and the money to install one of these and then to split the wood. So that's the installation aspect. Now the height of where you're going to install all of this, I would suggest that you audit the rest of the doors in the space. There's no reason to put it somewhere that's not compatible with everything else. Probably doesn't really matter. 36 inch from the floor is pretty common for a residential lock. No rules, but if it was imagine a commercial setting where this was not handicap compliant required and you had an incredibly long hallway, you're going to want that line of sight. Office doors on either side, maybe you got a couple of sliding doors for storage. Make that line of sight compatible. You don't want to have the one lock really low or really high. Measure everything else that you've got going on. Back to page 1. Now all you're going to do is screw this material together. The latch bolt goes in first. Arrow up. Take your exterior plate. They're telling you to put the tailpiece vertical. I don't see why that would... Yeah, put the tailpiece vertical on the exterior, because that will tell you that you are in the unlocked position, so that when it's horizontal, it'll give you the idea that it's projected. That will mean that the interior is going to go in unlocked, therefore horizontal. So in the unlocked position, it will primarily cover the screw holes, meaning that when it is in the locked position, it will turn vertical, allowing access to those screw heads, should that become important for any reason. Latch bolt failure, somehow the person has a Swiss Army knife and they can take the screws out and at least get to the back of the latch bolt, partially, whatever. This hardly ever happens, but 1 in a million times I suppose it does. Step 1, latch bolt goes in, make sure it's flush, make sure that the latch bolt works. Put a screwdriver in there and operate the latch bolt, because a hole that's constricting the hardware will prevent it from working. Obviously test the operation of your trigger mechanism. Do that before you get started. Make sure that works. Step 2 is put the exterior. Step 3, the interior. Step 4, the screws. Get it all tightened together. Test everything. Make sure it works super smooth. Put your strike in. Pre-drill all the holes. Test operation, and you're complete at that point. Okay. Nice quality hardware. This is the US 15 finish, and it is very, very, very compatible with a satin nickel. I would have no reservations about this. Because it's not made of brass, it won't be the same elegant and regal satin nickel that you'll see on solid brass hardware, but this is incredibly common. And certainly in the world of residential hardware, this is going to be thoroughly equal to or compatible with satin nickel hardware. Finally, the name Dorex is, as I'd mentioned earlier, a comprehensive provider of many things hardware related. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Dorex products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the current product catalog. Dorex is represented here in the United States by a company called Paramount Hardware that we sell a lot of their material. And when it comes to reliable, exceptional, predictable, dependable customer service and technical support, they should have that as their legal middle name. They're great people. I always look for ways to send orders their way because, you know, here's what I need. I need to send you an order. Give me the ship date. Once the ship dates come, give me a tracking number. That's all. And they just do it well all the time, and I appreciate that from them. If you have any questions on the Epic Dorex passage or privacy set for pocket doors or any other Dorex product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.